Welcome back to TK Tennis. Why is it that most recreational players struggle to hit out in front while professional players like Alcaraz here who are able to hit out in front consistently? In this video, we're going to talk about the number one reason why recreational players hit late. And what's interesting and what you'll find is that most recreational players, 4.5 or lower, do hit late and don't hit out in front enough like they should. And the reasons are probably not what you think. Let's first go through the 5 possible reasons people often think is the reason why they hit late. The first one is bad preparation. We're going to take subject E here on the right. And first, let's go through point number 1. Is it bad preparation? As you can see, the ball has not bounced yet, and he's already completed his unit turn. So that's, generally speaking, is good preparation. He's ready to hit the ball before the ball bounces. So we can rule that out. He's well prepared with his unit turn, ready to hit this ball. The second reason is he's starting his swing too late. These players are hitting the ball in between around 35 and 40 miles an hour. So the ball's not coming at them fast enough where they should be hitting late. The ball's bouncing, his racket's now moving back, and he takes a step into the ball and strikes it and makes contact. And you can see once again that he is late. But why is that? Did he swing too slow or did he swing too late? Well, no, he certainly didn't swing too late. Maybe he swung too low, but that's not the reason. The third reason could be his swing path is too long. So let's rule that out. So you can see he's in his unit turn, and he's going to take his swing in this direction as he steps into the ball. And at no point did his racket go behind his body. So he has an efficient swing path. It's certainly not too long. You could argue that maybe it's too high. This is very common and not abnormal at all. What about the fourth reason? His swing is out to in instead of in to out, and he's jamming himself. Let's take a look if that happens. So again, the ball's coming towards him. He's making a step to the ball, and he strikes the ball. Now let's go to reason number 5, bad positioning and an improper stance. Now in this example, you will see that as the ball's bouncing, that his feet are still going to move forward, and he's going to step into the ball with his right foot. His positioning is not ideal, and it is causing him to hit late. It certainly could. Now there's 2 other quick reasons we can go to. We're going to take the screenshot on the left. Here's E hitting the ball from the side. Now you could say if he had an old school grip, like an Eastern grip, that would cause him to hit a little bit later and not so far out in front. And that's true, but he doesn't. He has a semi-Western grip. So it has nothing to do with sort of an old school or traditional Eastern grip or a continental grip. Another reason is you could argue that he's not laying his wrist back enough. But that is clearly not the case. He's also lagging his wrist like you'd expect someone with a semi-Western grip to be doing. So that begs the question, what is the number one reason why recreational players hit late? In this case, and in many other cases, if it has nothing to do with their mechanics, what is the true number one reason? Well, it's probably not what you think. It's all up here, and here, and here. So let me explain. Have you ever seen a baseball player who's catching a fly ball? And you ever noticed where their eyes are in relationship to their mitt? Notice how they place their mitt as close to the eyes as possible, basically right in front of their face. And how about an example? Have you ever watched a beginner tennis player try and hit a serve and notice they toss the ball up just in front of their face, maybe slightly higher than their eyes, and patty cake it across the net? Our eyes and our visual perception are naturally tuned to hit objects or to catch objects that are perpendicular to our eyes, not out in front. It's easier to make contact when the ball is later to the side of our body versus or opposed to when it's out in front of us. And so while we all know we should be hitting the ball out here, out in front of us, our mind and our eyes tell us to wait longer and let it come in later. And this is not an easy fix. This is something that every tennis player, including professional tennis players, have to overcome. This is a lifelong effort to create a habit to hitting the ball out in front of us versus hitting it to the side of us. And most people start working on their stroke mechanics thinking that's the reason they're hitting late, when in fact, it's the lack of habit forming and the constant struggle to hit out in front of them because the mind hasn't formed a strong enough habit. And let's clearly define what a habit is. If this is your brain and here are your eyeballs, a habit is essentially a shortcut. When this happens, do that, a reaction. Versus when something is not a strong habit and your eyes have to perceive something, it has to process and has to do various cognitive thought before it can actually take the action. So a habit is a reaction. There's not enough time to have cognitive thought because of all the processing it takes. And that same issue applies to tennis players. You have to create a very well-defined habit or shortcut. So you might ask, how do you form such a good habit? Well, of course, there's no easy answer except for practice. But there are a couple things that you can do to improve the habit of hitting out in front. The first one is awareness, to understand that hitting out in front will be a constant struggle for all tennis players until that habit is so well formed. But there are a couple things you can do. One of them with subject E here is when he's striking the ball, you absolutely want to concentrate on making sure you get full extension with the arm so that you're not in a sort of T-Rex position and having a bent elbow. And it's really that basic. Awareness, trying to straighten out the arm, and then hitting out in front on a consistent basis and practicing that over and over, and not forgetting that you will always be challenged to hit out in front until that habit is so well formed. But what you can do is practice keeping the arm straight and putting more effort into reaching out in front of you and extending your arm straight towards the ball. Now, one of the ways to do this as well is you'll notice that it's easier to hit in front on a low ball versus it is a high ball. The lower the ball, the easier it is to straighten out the arm. The higher the ball, the more critical your positioning will be in making sure your timing is even more proficient. Now, early in the video, we did mention that positioning was also a problem, that he's stepping in with his right foot, and while it's an open stance, it's a very weak open stance. And in this particular case, he does need to do a better job with his positioning. And the best way to look at that is look at someone like Casper Ruud. What's really important about your positioning is, if you notice Casper, that as the ball is bouncing right here, he's already loaded up on his right foot and he has very little weight on his left foot. So he's fully loaded with a knee bend as the ball is bouncing. Where in the example of is loaded now, but he will then take another step after the bounce and he never gets fully loaded up before he strikes the ball. And this is a weak open stance position versus what you see here with Casper being a very strong position. Subject E here on the left is certainly not positioned nearly as well as he needs to be, and he's making too many adjustments after the ball bounces. Where if you notice Casper, and we'll play this in slow motion, is that every time the ball bounces, he is loaded up. Watch it, ball bounces, he's loaded and ready to hit and doesn't require any more positioning. And that certainly also helps with making sure that you hit out in front of you and you're not hitting late. These habits do not form over 6 months or a year. They form over years and decades. And the more you work on that habit, the better your game will get, little by little. And that's the thing we love about tennis. It's not easy. It's sometimes very frustrating, but it's also incredibly rewarding. This is not pickleball. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next days.